Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Humor in the C-Suite. Our episode this week is very special. We have done 25 episodes. What? Look, I know other podcasts have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes, but honestly, I just really wanted to take time to thank all my guests who have shared so much insight, how humor really does make us kinder, how it really does build an extraordinary work culture, trust, meaningful relationships, innovation, all those beautiful shares, all your funniest stories and your favorite jokes. It has been such a pleasure, and I really want to thank you for your time and your energy, and for everyone who has listened and shared and supported this podcast. It has truly been a gift to me, and I'm so grateful for all of you. So enjoy this episode. It's a compilation of a bunch of my guests. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. Describe how you incorporate humor into your business leadership.
You know, I have never met a person who has gotten sick from laughing, ever. I've always stressed the fact that, this is our place of work. It takes you maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to work. Then you spend 8 hours at least with your coworkers. And then another hour and a half to 2 hours to get back home. So that accounts for about 12 hours that you're awake. Now, out of those 12 hours that you are awake, those 12 hours, 8 of those 12 hours, you are with your coworkers, your mates. Mm-hmm. So I believe that most jobs create a certain degree of tension. It's inevitable, right? But why not take the fuse or the trigger out of that tension? And I find that the best way to do that is to have a friendly, light-hearted place to work. I think you work better as a team when you do that. So I apply it everywhere we go and everywhere we are. We don't condone being a class clown. It's not everything is going to be a laugh and laugh all the time. We got to get to work, but we take our work seriously. But our relationship and between one another and teams also very seriously. But after all, we're all friends. We're all human beings.
Yeah, I mean, really, humor does really play a strong role in building those relationships. Do you ever find you're clinching the deal because of your personality, because of, who you are other than your work?
Definitely. I think the way we communicate, the way we talk, the way we relate to people has a lot to do, number one, how intelligent and capable and competent people think we are, and also how relatable we are and how much we identify with their needs. And that's important to me because I think that the majority of situations you walk into in a business setting, we don't know what we are walking into, how much friction there is. And there's always the preconceived ideas, what people think. In my business is construction, right? We are contractors. So there's a certain image that people have. So it's interesting, and I say this, Kate, with absolute humility. I don't think I'm the cat's meow, and I don't think that I'm God's gift to construction. But I do believe that I have some gifts, just like I have some things that I really need to work on. So when we walk into a meeting, I think the first thing to me is not to convince anybody how good we are and how much more competent we are or capable of doing the work. That's not it. I need to open that door first to their heart, to them saying, okay, we're going to receive. Let's open the door before we talk about the technical part. And to me is being kind, making sure that we shake hands, we smile, we greet people in a good and respectful way. And I can't tell you that I have a formula because I don't. Because I'm me. This what you see right now is me. This is me. I have one speed and one speed only. I do not downshift from here or upshift. This is it. This is what you get. So I don't have a formula, but I say I improvise.
Yeah, but I love what you just said, that you're going to open your heart first. You're going to receive them. You're going to, it starts with a smile, and that's connection and so many more levels. And it just really shows confidence, the fact that you're not trying to sell, that you take a step back and go, we need to open the door first.
we have been chasing leadership with socio sociological corporate experiments, throwing benefits and this at employees while neglecting to see that, what I need to be a leader is people.
Yes.
The rest is skills. So people look at, oh, what does it take to be a leader? They say, oh, well, you have to be empathetic and blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. What you need to be a leader is people. Those are skills. Those are skills. Do not confuse things.
Yeah.
Those are basically the tools you need. But what you need is people. And if what you need is people, if what you need to have a tree is the root, why would you shine the leaf?
I love that.
And
oh my God, Oscar, come on. Boom.
Yeah. Why would you shine the leaves, right? And keep them pretty when you're not watering the roots.
Yeah,
So
it's all
me,
foundation. I mean, you know that from building. That's why buildings collapse. Everything starts with a strong foundation. But humor really does make us kinder to one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More relatable. It humanizes you. So you asked me a few minutes ago, what would I say to other leaders?
Yeah.
I have 4 words.
I love it.
Lighten the hell up.
Yes.
That's it. Lighten up. Lighten up. You're not proving anything to anybody. You know what? You can flex your muscles, but that doesn't mean you're a tough guy. You might be just a scared little boy inside. Lighten up. Lighten up. Connect. Connect. People are people. They need to be treated the way we want to be treated. I know it sounds cliche-ish, but we need to lighten up. We need to lighten up.
No, and honestly, I mean, that's my whole thing. So often we don't want to lighten up because we really are afraid we'll lose our sense of importance. But lightening up allows us to take risks, to think differently, to communicate differently. It makes us more receptive, as you just said. And we're all great leaders are born, really. So
the lion doesn't stop being a lion when he's not roaring.
Yes.
Or when he's taking a nap. You still know he's a lion, right?
I just want you to write a book of quotes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you are that fragile, that lightening up a little bit and telling a little joke is going to undermine your authority or your position as a leader, then I would seriously question what kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find like you have a lot of personal benefits that you feel by having used humor in your workplace?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've made some very nice friends. I mean, I've made friends with people. I mean, I just came from a meeting in downtown DC with somebody that I've known for over 20 some odd years. Wow. And I mean, I think the beginning of our friendship was that levity, that lightheartedness that we had. And she saw also how serious we were about our work. But we could smile. We could share a laugh, and I believe that if we can laugh together, chances are we can work together.
I love that. That's perfect. That is so perfect. I'm so grateful to have met you, and just the fact all your stories were incredible. And I really hope it helps some people who are trying to be great leaders and know that they can lighten up, and it's okay too. It makes you an even better leader.
Kate, at the end of the day, as I said, we're human beings. There's nothing more meaningful to me than a handshake, a hug, a smile, a laugh together. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
I read a book on humor in the corporate world and how it disarms people. They say if you're laughing, you're learning. How people, they light up. It does this, physiologically. And so it's fun. I just read this book and I tried it with a client. It was a guy who's senior executive at a big bank. And he reached out to me for some consulting thing, and I just started having fun with him. And somehow we landed on this notion of more cowbell, like that SNL thing with more cowbell.
Yes.
And then this became our running joke. And then I sent him a proposal and a hashtag more cowbell. And then he started sending me stuff, and we won the account. It's been a multi-year account, and we have this fun running joke between us. And so I really believe that humor, he could have had a number of different providers, but humor tipped the scales in our favor. And I think just in terms of our ability to really connect with people, to form a bond, to elevate a relationship beyond the transactional, it's a powerful, powerful mechanism that is widely underused.
Well, I love that. And it's so true. And I know you really do live by this, because I was checking out your one website. Is it Mudita? Is that how I say
Yeah,
it?
Mudita.
Mudita. But you have one, we believe in making a real impact without being raging jerks. And I thought that is such, like, it just makes you real. It makes you sincere. It's funny. Like, it really does just speak to how much humor is involved in all these startups that you're helping.
Thank you. And I think so too, by the way. And we have a deep craving for humor and connection, and it's very often underdeveloped. Furthermore, I think it can be a wonderful competitive differentiator. You know, if every bank looks the same, but one bank is funny, like that's going to stand out. And actually, by the way, there was a bank that was really funny. There was this bank, this guy comes out, and basically they were like the bank that told the truth always, like honest banking. And so they're like, it's like, hi, I'm an actor. This bank told me to say that they paid me $6,000 to tell you how great our checking policies are. And like, it was actually really funny. And they used humor to differentiate themselves, and they won very big. So I think it's not only a nice thing to do, and it's a heartfelt thing to do. It really can be a competitive advantage.
Absolutely. It's so true. And I find that within the speaking industry for myself as well. Like, there's so many heavy topics out there. And if you can throw in someone with a humorous topic in the middle of your conference, usually most people remember the funny anyway. And as you said, it really does help people learn at the same time. There's nothing worse than someone taking themselves too seriously, because then people don't feel like they can be themselves at work, or bring their authentic selves to work so often. So do you find, like, when you're dealing with all your startups and those companies, speaking aside, do you find it helps with team building?
I really do. Because I think we all tend to put our guard up a little bit at work in professional settings, and we have to present like, oh, we're infallible and we're bulletproof and all that stuff. And humor, by definition, takes that edge off. And I find it to be not only a wonderful icebreaker, but really a relationship builder. And when you're laughing with somebody, you're bonding with them, and you've got a reference point. And so even if it's playful humor, or, like whatever, I just find that to be really good. And I don't think I'm a master. By the way, I'm not. And you're an expert in this. I'm not, but I do see it as a really valuable asset, and one that can be cultivated across probably any type of business relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? There are so many ways to bring humor into the workplace. Google will put up different names of in all their boardrooms that are really funny to, sort of say to everyone, oh, our office we like jokes here. We like funny. We don't take ourselves too seriously. I know some really great speakers who aren't that funny, but they'll use funny memes and, slides in their keynote to bring that humor into what they're saying. So I think there's lots of different ways, whether, we're really not talking about telling the next best joke. We're really talking about not taking ourselves so seriously and bringing that to all the aspects. And just, looking at that website, I was just like, oh, they get it. They're not taking themselves so seriously, but all the startups are serious. They're feeding the planet. They're helping people.
Then you're like, okay, do I have to be really funny? What if I'm not a funny person? And I don't consider myself an especially funny person, but I read recently that, humor is really more about, observing things and being more authentic to who you are, like, a little self-deprecating or whatever. So I think that the concern is, oh gosh, if I'm not as funny as Jerry Seinfeld or Ellen DeGeneres, will that work for me as a tool? And I think you don't have to be a Netflix grade comedian to use humor in an effective manner. Humor, again, is such a universal thing. It almost doesn't matter what industry you're in. You can be funny in finance. You can be funny in healthcare in an appropriate way. I mean, you're not going to obviously undermine a patient's health to crack a joke, but there are times in healthcare when you could use humor to diffuse a situation, for example. So yeah, with the folks that we work with at Impact 11, who are thought leaders and professional speakers, I think we really tried our best to encourage humor as a technique that can be cultivated and a skill that can be developed and ultimately used to create to maximize impact. And as you know, I'm a musician, and I think of humor would be like a particular chord. Because if all I did is play one chord and I never did anything else, it would become cumbersome. But if I thoughtfully and artistically weave that chord into other chords, then it can be magical. And I think humor is the same kind of thing. It's one form of human expression. And for me, in a great keynote would have a lot of forms of human expression. It might have humor. It might have something that's more touching. It might have something that's more intellectually provocative. But used sparingly and thoughtfully, I think it can make an event. Again, it's not only disarms you as the speaker, it disarms the audience and the host and everybody in between. And when people do open up, they learn a lot. I'm sure you've read the study, and I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong, but I heard that something like kids that are in kindergarten laugh like, 14 times an hour, and adults.
It's like 300 times a day. Yeah, compared to about 15. It's pretty. When do we leave Never Neverland? You're just like, what happened to us? Yeah, it's so true.
And I think that's a bit heartbreaking. And because, by the way, when kids are kids, like they're learning, they're creative, they're doing all the things that we want to do as adults. And so if humor is having such or lack of humor is having such a negative effect, maybe we try re-injecting the humor.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, I was always class clown, goofy kid, always getting into trouble. For me, it was reining it in. But I do think I know it does bring people together. And I do also find, like in workplaces, if you're having fun things, if you're doing team building events in the good times, when the serious times do come, you work better as a team.
I'll just add to that. I study human creativity, as you probably know, and innovation. And, humor really does play an important role in that. And I've often reflected on this notion. So when you're a kid, you go out to play. When I do music, I play music. You do sports, you play sports. And then contrast the term play with work. And the term work almost implies that there should be no pleasure in it whatsoever. Don't ever crack a smile. You're merely trading your soul for money. And then we wonder why we have mediocre companies and mediocre ideas. And I almost think we should swap the word work with play. Like, hey, honey, I'm going out to play today. Like, yeah, why not? I mean, the word play just implies that you have some intrinsic value in it, that there's some fun, that you could smile every now and then. But I believe when we're playing through problems instead of working through problems, we actually do better work. Like, we have better output. And so I'm a big fan of injecting laughter and humor and play into just about every professional setting.
I think that should be your next book.
Instead of a workforce, we should have a play force.
A play force, exactly. In terms of your team building, do you have any favorite things you like to do with your team to bring humor into these various workplaces?
Well, you mentioned that technique. I've actually used a similar technique. I just call it the bad idea brainstorm, where you basically try to come up with a set of good ideas, horrible ideas, like unethical and inappropriate ideas, and like terrible ideas. And after about a 10-minute sprint of just coming up with awful, horrendous ideas, then you just stop and say, okay, let's examine these bad ideas and say, is there like a legit flip that we could do? Can we take the essence of the idea and make it not inappropriate or illegal, make it appropriate?
Yeah.
But again, it does push the creative boundaries. There's no question about it. A lot of times, really decoding humor is fascinating. There's a guy who I work with. He wrote a book on humor, and he has this thing called, I think he called it that humor gets to this thing called a benign violation. I don't know if you've heard that theory before. He literally was a professor in college humor. He had a laboratory of humor science and all that. And he defines humor as this notion of benign violation, where like it's something that shouldn't be in a set or shouldn't exist, but it's benign. It's not like so awful. Like it's something that shouldn't exist as a school shooting, but that's not funny. It's horrible. But if there's something like, you slip on a banana peel, nobody's killed, and that shouldn't happen. And so if you're telling a joke and there's like, you say this one thing and this second thing that feel like a set, and then the third thing that you say doesn't fit in the set at all, it's something completely off, then it's sort of funny, benign violation. So I've been trying to think about that a little bit as I think about humor, maybe not being as instinctively funny. Is like, are there ways that you can craft humor in a way that sort of works for those of us that aren't as naturally gifted, for example, as you are?
Yeah. And you know what? Really, there are techniques to anything, whether it's learning to read music or learning to tell a joke. Everything happens in threes. We have callbacks and tags and a whole sort of language we use as comics. But it's definitely like for what I do in terms of my keynotes, I like sprinkling it in. You're not going to see the joke coming. All of a sudden it's just going to be there. And I find when I've been dealing with people in the workplace, the number one thing people say is, what do you want from your leader? Is they want them to sound like a regular person. They want them to, I think people want more authenticity. And I believe humor can do that in terms of bringing everyone together and going, oh, I thought he was so scary, but he's actually this really funny, great guy who, if I do have a problem, I can actually say something.
Yeah, one of my speaking heroes, unfortunately passed, was a guy named Sir Ken Robinson. He gave the keynote, Why Schools Kill Creativity. It's the #1 talk.
I love him. Yes.
Love him. I got
Yeah.
to know him personally. He's a wonderful person. I met his wife. I mean, he was a hero of mine. And, there's a perfect example. He was taking on a very serious topic. The poisonous nature of that rigid schooling is having on children's development. But
Yeah.
because he interspersed humor in it, he brought it to life in such a remarkable way. If that talk was without the humor, it wouldn't have 1 million, let alone 200 million views on TED. So I think that humor is a very effective way, especially to take serious topics and make them more palatable and more presentable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And would you have any advice you'd like to give other leaders on how they could bring humor into their workplaces?
I don't have any tactical advice because I'm not an expert in humor, but just strong encouragement that it's an underutilized technique, or again, I think about like a chord voicing. It's part of your creative repertoire, and if you're going to be an artistic leader, you're going to use different types of emotion. Sometimes if you're thoughtful about it, you might need to use intensity. You might need to use urgency. Maybe you use something that's a little self-deprecating. And humor is one of those techniques that is an important one to consider, an important one to sort of build into your leadership vocabulary.
So you're dealing with 40 chapters, 5,000 volunteers. How do you bring humor into those moments? Do you have any examples of your overwhelming days?
Well, it's 5,000 members, and it's about 700 volunteers across the country. So all of the chapter boards are led by volunteers. And, I think that the most critical thing for a staff person leading an organization that's volunteer-led is empathy and humor. And, I've been with SIM for 4 years and have led with wanting to understand their situation, what their obstacles are, what they're facing, but also creating a space knowing that they are volunteering their time. So you can't just have these high expectations of volunteers when they have a full-time job, families, they're volunteering their time. It has to be a positive experience for them. So I know with my CEO and me, we really try to be relatable to them and build connection. And our biggest job, besides running the organization and making sure it's sustainable and all these really hard things at times, is to have our volunteers feel like they're a part of something bigger, and to feel connected to one another. And I don't think there's any better way than keeping things light and having fun and making jokes and building that connection with each other. I think it creates a space for our volunteers to be themselves too. So if Mark and I can create a positive working environment and we're having fun, then they feel like they can contribute too. And I think it's working.
Look, I mean, it's just growing. So obviously it's working. No one's going to join something that's, doesn't make them feel a part of it.
Yeah. We have we use Slack to communicate. And so, Giphies are my love language. I send people the Giphies when I think they're doing a great job, or if things are getting hard and they need just something to smile. But I also write my team haikus on Fridays.
Ooh, can you give us an example of a haiku?
Oh man, I'll have to pull one up. Let's see.
You're my first person who's ever mentioned haiku. I am just, yeah, wow. And you work on
I haven't written one for today. And actually the most beautiful thing about it is that my team has started to write them back. So Deborah on my team, wrote one for Pie Day on March 14th. And so this is a shout out to Deborah. Pie crust, sweet and flaky, apple, pecan, cherry crumb, STEM nerds celebrate for Pie Day, March 14th. So,
oh, I love that. It's so creative and just so unique. Do you find humor really does help team collaboration?
Yes, 100%. I think you bond with people through shared experience, through empathy, and through humor. I've never bonded with anyone through, I guess there's trauma bonding, but even trauma bonding you want to laugh about, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry, right?
Yeah.
But I've never bonded with anybody through a negative experience where they haven't met my expectations or I haven't met theirs and one of us is upset. We don't walk away feeling more connected to each other or feel like I really love what I'm doing right now. Like to build team camaraderie, especially a remote team. Um, and especially we mostly talk on a Zoom call or in Slack. If you can't find the funny together, then you don't have a sustaining team. So yes, I think it's critical.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And also, I know for myself, when I've been in situations where I have a leader who's harsh, I tend to close up. I find it hard to be creative and be motivated. And I think a lot of people will feel that way.
I honestly don't know how people become leaders with that type of mentality. And maybe that's generational, that
Yes.
right now people are striving to be authentic leaders. That's I would call that a trending term for leadership, is how to be an authentic leader. Sim has a leadership institute for technology leaders. So you've got someone who is a programmer that wants to start leading a team. We don't train them about managing teams. We train them about becoming authentic and being your authentic self and leading in that way. So we have this technology association teaching programmers to be authentic technology leaders. But that is the truth, that an authentic leader is being your whole self
Yeah.
and understanding the humans that are working with you and what their experience is. And being harsh and demanding and mean and critical just doesn't get anyone anywhere. It doesn't bring you to the next level. It doesn't make you succeed. It doesn't take you from good to great. It doesn't work that way. I've not seen it work. I've never wanted to work for anyone like that. And I thankfully haven't. So I've had great examples along the way. Sometimes when things get mucky and you try to bring humor into it, it just makes it muckier.
Yeah.
But I think it's super recoverable. I think you just apologize. Say, oops, that didn't land right. I didn't mean it that way. Or, I was trying to make light of something that I shouldn't have. And just apologize and rewind, say, let me try again.
Yeah.
And that seems to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you bring up the emails and trying to connect that way, because it is such a huge part of how we're all communicating. And,
Yes.
And bringing a little levity in that. I'm trying to bring back PS, PS, I can't believe you read this whole email, or, yeah.
I really want to lean in to two things. One is the out of office message. And I've been trying to do this by being really whenever I'm out of office, I tell people what I'm doing. And it's, for example, I went to opening day for the Astros, big fan of the
Yeah.
Astros and lifetime fan. Uh, but I went to opening day and I put that in my out of office. I say, hey guys, I'm not here. I'm at opening day for the Astros. And I say I'm hiking in Zion, or I say I'm out visiting this chapter doing this thing. And or I say, I'm out with my mom. I'll get real detailed and say what it is I'm doing. And I think that's real interesting and fun because you get responses back.
Yes.
I mean, how often do you feel compelled to respond to someone's out of office message without like a middle finger or something saying, I need you right now and you're not here for me. So like
Yeah.
bringing that humanity to it with your out of office message, I've really enjoyed it. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback and people are saying, oh, that's so fun. I went to this stadium, or, oh, I just hiked at Bryce Canyon, whatever it is, you get more engagement. And I love coming back to my inbox. And I can't believe I just said those words. I love coming back to my inbox after I've done something fun and have some message from someone that's encouraging or relatable. The other thing is salutations, like your
Yes.
PS. All the different, like, instead of, dear Kate, I hope this email finds you well, just like something that turns that on its head and
Yeah.
says, I know you don't want this email, but here I am anyways. Just something like that. We're on salutations instead of like best regards. Something
Yes.
like, happy haiku Friday. Just something dumb where it just, instead of all the
Yeah.
BS that comes with an email, like light it up a little bit.
I just love that. And I hope everyone listening is going to take that into account.
I need to actually do it. I do it with out of office, but not I'm not brave enough for the salutations yet, but
I
maybe
love
today.
that. Dear so and so, I know you really don't want this email, but here
Right.
I am.
But yeah, I think we like to laugh. We like to laugh with each other. I think it's the way we bond. I think it's the easiest way to to feel connected and then also get to business. And I think the other piece is that we try to find the funny within our business. That, no offense to all of our wonderful volunteers who give their time and energy to STEM, but we laugh about our volunteers because they're funny. I mean, you got people, when you're working with people, you're going to have people times. Humans are going to do human things. And a lot of times it's pretty funny. If you can't laugh about it, then what can you do? You can't get mad about it. You're just being human.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Do you find levity and humor has benefited you personally?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's made me, little Lydia, who I like to reference sometimes, she
Yeah.
wasn't actually very fun. People who knew me just in high school and before, I wasn't super fun. I was pretty tightly wound. And actually my time in the woods with the teenage boys working in the wilderness camp was transformative for me. It helped me loosen up and figure out what really matters in life and what is truly life and death and what is serious and what is not so serious. And those boys lived in really tough situations. They were on the path to being criminals. They were dealing drugs. They were involved in gangs. And usually it was a cycle for them and their families. But they were so funny. Those kids, I was cracking up all the time. And probably I came into that with a potty humor. I got it from my dad. But I mean, they're funny. Teenage boys are hilarious. And spending time with them all day, every day for 375 days of my life, it left that place a better person, stronger, more resilient, funnier. Maybe I was a teenage boy for about a month after trying to like find a new balance in who I am after doing this experience.
Yeah.
But I will say that Levitt, that helped. That was so important, that period of my life, because I left the woods stronger, better, and less tightly wound, less uptight about stupid things that don't matter. And so as a leader, I want to say I enjoy my work more when I can bring levity to it. I have a good understanding of what really matters. I tell everyone, like, everything's solvable. If you can just tell me what's going on, communication is the most important thing for me. Tell me what's going on. Everything's solvable. Nothing is life and death in this organization, in this piece. That situation with those kids, that was life and death for them at times. And this is not. It's just not. And so there's no point in getting all wrapped up, all wound up. Have fun. Like, we have one life to live. And if you're not enjoying it, then what's the point? Like, why would you do anything that doesn't make you feel happy?
Yes.
So I try to do that with my team, and it's hard because we're like an entrepreneurial nonprofit. We're running so fast. We're experimenting all the time. We're trying new things. We're trying to reinvigorate this 50-year-old organization. It's hard. It's super hard. But the only way to make the grind feel possible is to enjoy it. So that's what we try to do.
Everything you just said, and you know what? I, as well, in my early 20s, took myself way too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if there's anything I could say to that self is, and I've said to my own children, is just have fun. Like, everything works out. And if it doesn't, you know what? It doesn't. And you'll deal with it then. So, yeah.
I would say the same thing to my younger self is don't try so hard.
Yes. Do you have any advice for people coming up in the C-suite in management positions to give them about how they can use levity and humor?
Yeah, and I actually wrote something down for this because I think this is important. And I think we talked about authentic leadership and being your true self. And I would say I have a long list of amazing mentors in my life. I mentioned Mark Taylor. We've worked together for 10 years, and he has given me the space, so much space to be myself, to run, to do what I feel is good and right without a lot of check-ins. He takes the time to know me, to know what makes me tick, to know my family. And I try to do the same with my team, is to get to know your team, get to know who they are, what matters to them, and let them be themselves. And I mentioned that everything is solvable, but creating space for humans to be human is critical. And I have this one post that's pinned to my LinkedIn, and it's pinned there for others, but it's also pinned there for me. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn for my job, and so I see it a lot. And it's my mom, who is my biggest mentor forever.
Yeah.
Vicky Rudy is the bomb. She sent me a note saying, "Be so completely yourself that everyone else feels safe to be themselves too." And on the very same day that my mom sent me that, one of my board members, good friend, mentor, from another organization who has passed recently, so it's important for me to remember her, Beth Ann Unger. She was a CIO for the city of Frisco, Texas, told me as I was leaving that job and coming over to SIM, she said, "Be totally you, because that's what makes you special." And I carry those messages with me every day. Not everyone is funny. Not everyone has the same sense of humor. But if humor is part of your makeup as a leader, bring it to the table with you, because you being yourself fully allows everyone else to follow suit. So that's what I'd say.
Oh, yes. Boom. Laying it down.